San Antonio, officially the city of San Antonio, is the seventh most populated city in the United States of America and the second most populated city in the state of Texas, with a population of 1,409,019. It was the fastest growing of the top 10 largest cities in the United States from 2000 to 2010, and the second from 1990 to 2000. The city is located in the American Southwest, the south-central part of Texas, and the southwestern corner of an urban region known as the Texas Triangle. San Antonio serves as the seat of Bexar County. Recent annexations have extended the city's boundaries into Medina County though for only a very tiny area near the city of Garden Ridge, into Comal County. The city has characteristics of other western urban centers in which there are sparsely populated areas and a low density rate outside of the city limits. San Antonio is the center of the San Antonio-New Braunfels Metropolitan Statistical Area, commonly referred to as Greater San Antonio. The metropolitan area has a population of over 2.3 million, based on the 2014 U.S. Census estimate, making it the 25th largest metropolitan area in the United States and third largest in the state of Texas. Growth along the Interstate 35 and Interstate 10 corridors to the north, west and east make it likely that the metropolitan area will continue to expand. San Antonio was named for Saint Anthony of Padua, whose feast day is on June 13, by a 1691 Spanish expedition in the area. It is notable for Spanish colonial missions, the Alamo, the River Walk, the Tower of the Americas, the Alamo Bowl, and Marriage Island. Commercial entertainment includes SeaWorld and Six Flags Fiesta Texas theme parks, and according to the San Antonio Convention and Visitors Bureau, the city is visited by about 26 million tourists a year. The city is home to the five-time NBA champions San Antonio Spurs and hosts the annual San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo, one of the largest such events in the country. The U.S. Armed Forces have numerous facilities in San Antonio: Fort Sam Houston, Lackland Air Force Base, Randolph Air Force Base, and Lackland AFB, Kelly Field Annex, with Camp Bullish and Camp Stanley located outside the city. Kelly Air Force Base operated out of San Antonio until 2001, when the airfield was transferred to Lackland AFB. The remaining portions of the base were developed as Port San Antonio, an industrial business park. San Antonio is home to 6 Fortune 500 companies and the South Texas Medical Center, the only medical research and care provider in the South Texas region. The San Antonio Missions became the 23rd U.S. site on the World Heritage List, which includes the Grand Canyon and the Statue of Liberty. It is the first site in the state of Texas. History. At the time of European encounter, Payaya Indians lived near the San Antonio River Valley in the San Pedro Springs area, calling the vicinity Yanaguana, meaning refreshing waters. In 1691, a group of Spanish Catholic explorers and missionaries came upon the river and Payaya settlement on June 13, the feast day of Saint Anthony of Padua. They named the place and river San Antonio in his honor. It was years before any Spanish settlement took place. Father Antonio de Olivares visited the site in 1709, and he was determined to found a mission and civilian settlement there. The viceroy gave formal approval for a combined mission and presidio in late 1716, as he wanted to forestall any French expansion into the area from their colony of La Louisiane, as well as prevent illegal trading with the Payaya. He directed Martin de Alarcon, the governor of Coahuila and Texas, to establish the mission complex. Differences between Alarcon and Olivares resulted in delays, and construction did not start until 1718. Fray Antonio de Olivares built, with the help of the Payar Indians, the Misión de San Antonio de Valero, the Presidio San Antonio de Bera, the bridge that connected both, and the Acequi Armada de Valero. The families who clustered around the Presidio and mission formed the beginnings of Villa de Bayar, destined to become the most important town in Spanish Texas. On May 1, the governor transferred ownership of the mission San Antonio de Valero to Fray Antonio de Olivares. On May 5, 1718, he commissioned the Presidio San Antonio de Beacutex on the west side of the San Antonio River, 1/4 league from the mission. On February 14, 1719, the Marquis of San Miguel de Aguayo proposed to the King of Spain that 400 families be transported from the Canary Islands, Galicia, or Havana to populate the province of Texas. His plan was approved, and notice was given the Canary Islanders to furnish 200 families. The Council of the Indies suggested that 400 families should be sent from the Canaries to Texas by way of Havana and Veracruz. By June 1730, 25 families had reached Cuba, and 10 families had been sent to Veracruz before orders from Spain came to stop the resettlement. Under the leadership of Juan Leal Goraj, the group marched overland from Veracruz to the Presidio San Antonio de Beacutex, where they arrived on March 9, 1731. Due to marriages along the way, the party now included 15 families, a total of 56 persons. They joined the military community established in 1718. The immigrants formed the nucleus of the Villa of San Fernando de Beacutex, the first regularly organized civil government in Texas. Several older families of San Antonio trace their descent from the Canary Island colonists. Maria Rosa Padron was the first baby born of Canary Islander descent in San Antonio. During the Spanish-Mexican settlement of southwestern lands, which took place over the following century, Juan Leal Goraj Jr. was a prominent figure. He claimed nearly 100,000 square miles of Spanish territory and held some control for nearly 3 decades. This area stretched across 6 present-day states. San Antonio was designated as Leal Goraj's capital. It represented Mexican expansion into the area. With his robust military forces, he led exploration and establishing Spanish colonial bases as far as San Francisco, California. Widespread bankruptcy forced Leal Goraj Jr.'s army back into the current boundaries of Mexico. They fell into internal conflict and turmoil with neighboring entities. San Antonio grew to become the largest Spanish settlement in Texas. It was designated as the capital of the Spanish, later Mexican, province of Texas. From San Antonio, the Camino Real was built to the small frontier town of Nacogdoches. Mexico allowed European American settlers from the United States into the territory. They mostly occupied land in the eastern part. When Antonio López de Santa Anna unilaterally abolished the Mexican Constitution of 1824, violence ensued in many states of Mexico. In a series of battles, the Texian army succeeded in forcing Mexican soldiers out of the settlement areas east of San Antonio, which were dominated by Americans. Under the leadership of Ben Milam, in the Battle of Bera, December 1835, Texian forces captured San Antonio from forces commanded by General Martin Perfecto de Cos, Santa Anna's brother-in-law. In the spring of 1836, Santa Anna marched on San Antonio. A volunteer force under the command of James C. Neal occupied and fortified the deserted mission. Upon his departure, the joint command of William Barrett Travis and James Bowie were left in charge of defending the old mission. The Battle of the Alamo took place from February 23 to March 6, 1836. The outnumbered Texian force was ultimately defeated, with all of the Alamo defenders killed. These men were seen as martyrs for the cause of Texas freedom. Remember the Alamo became a rallying cry in the Texian army's eventual success at defeating Santa Anna's army. Seguin, who organized the Company of Tejano Patriots, who fought for Texas independence, fought at the Battle of Concepcion, Siege of Beira, and the Battle of San Jacinto, and served as mayor of San Antonio. He was forced out of that office, due to threats on his life by sectarian newcomers and political opponents in 1842, becoming the last Tejano mayor for nearly 150 years. In 1845, the United States finally decided to annex Texas and include it as a state in the Union. This led to the Mexican-American War. Though the U.S. ultimately won, the war was devastating to San Antonio. By its end, the population of the city had been reduced by almost two-thirds, to 800 inhabitants. Bolstered by migrants and immigrants, by 1860, at the start of the Civil War, San Antonio had grown to a city of 15,000 people. Post-Civil War to present. Following the Civil War, San Antonio prospered as a center of the cattle industry. During this period, it remained a frontier city, with a mixture of cultures that was different from other U.S. cities. In the 1850s, Frederick Law Olmsted, the landscape architect who designed Central Park in New York City, traveled throughout the South and Southwest, and published accounts of his observations. In his 1859 book about Texas, Olmsted described San Antonio as having a jumble of races, costumes, languages, and buildings, which gave it a quality that only New Orleans could rival in what he described as odd and antiquated foreignness. In 1877, following the Reconstruction era, developers constructed the first railroad to San Antonio, connecting it to major markets and port cities. Texas was the first state to have major cities developed by railroads rather than waterways. In Texas, the railroads supported a markedly different pattern of development of major interior cities, such as San Antonio, Dallas and Fort Worth, compared to the historical development of coastal port cities in the established eastern states. At the beginning of the 20th century, the streets of the city's downtown were widened to accommodate streetcars and modern traffic. At that time, many of the older historic buildings were demolished in the process of this modernization. Since the late 20th century, San Antonio has had steady population growth. The city's population has nearly doubled in 35 years, from just over 650,000 in the 1970 census to an estimated 1.2 million in 2005, through both population growth and land annexation. In 1990, the United States Census Bureau reported San Antonio's population as 55.6% Hispanic, 7% Black, and 36.2% non-Hispanic white. Geography: San Antonio is located near 29.5 degrees north, 98.5 degrees west. It is about 75 miles to the southwest of its neighboring city, Austin, the state capital. The city is also about 190 miles west of Houston and about 250 miles south of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, in 2000 the city had a total area of 412.07 square miles, 407.56 square miles of land and 4.51 square miles of water. The city sits on the Balconer Escarpment. The altitude of San Antonio is 772 feet above sea level. The primary source of drinking water for the city is the Edwards Aquifer, impounded in 1962 and 1969, respectively. Victor Browning Lake and Calaveras Lake were among the first reservoirs in the country built to use recycled treated wastewater for power plant cooling, reducing the amount of groundwater needed for electrical generation. Neighborhoods, climate and vegetation. San Antonio has a transitional humid subtropical climate. The weather is hot in the summer, comfortably warm or mild winters subject to descending northern cold fronts in the winter with cool to cold nights, and warm and rainy in the spring and fall. Dew points in the summer months average at around 68 degrees Fahrenheit. San Antonio receives about a dozen sub-freezing nights each year, typically seeing some sort of wintry precipitation about once every 2 to 3 winters. But accumulation and snow itself are very rare. Winters may pass without any freezing precipitation at all, and up to a decade has passed between snowfalls in the past. According to the National Weather Service, there have been 31 instances of snowfall in the city in the past 122 years, about once every 4 years. Snow was most recently seen on February 4, 2011, when a half an inch of snow coated the city. In 1985, the city received a record snowfall of 16 inches. San Antonio and New Braunfels, 40 miles to the northeast, are some of the most flood-prone regions in North America. The October 1998 Central Texas floods were one of the costliest floods in United States history, resulting in $750 million in damage and 32 deaths. In 2002, from June 30 to July 7, 35 inches of rain fell in the San Antonio area, resulting in widespread flooding and 12 fatalities. Instances of tornadoes within the city limits have been reported as recently as October 2011, although they seldom occur. An F2 tornado will land within 50 miles of the city on average once every 5 years. San Antonio has experienced 2 F4 tornadoes, one in 1953 and another in 1973. The 1953 tornado resulted in 2 deaths and 15 injuries. In San Antonio, July and August high for the average warmest months, with an average high of 95 degrees Fahrenheit. The highest temperature ever to be recorded was 111 degrees Fahrenheit on September 5, 2000. The average chilliest month is January. The lowest recorded temperature ever was 0 degrees Fahrenheit on January 31, 1949. May, June, and October have quite a bit of precipitation. Since recording began in 1871, the average annual precipitation has been 29.03 inches, with a maximum of 52.28 inches and a minimum of 10.11 inches in 1 year. Natural vegetation in the San Antonio area includes oak cedar woodland, oak grassland, savanna, chaparral brush and riparian woodland. The San Antonio area is at the westernmost limit for cabbage palmetto. Demographics 2010. According to the 2010 U.S. Census, 1,327,407 people resided in the city proper of San Antonio, an increase of 16.0% since 2000. The racial composition of the city based on the 2010 U.S. Census is as follows: 72.6% white, 6.9% black, 0.9% Native American, 2.4% Asian, 0.1% Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, 3.4% 2 or more races, 13.7% other races. In addition, 63.2% of the city's population was of Hispanic or Latino origin, of any race. 2000. According to the 2000 U.S. Census, the city prop had a population of 1,144,646, ranking it the 9th most populated city in the country. Due to San Antonio's low density rate and lack of significant metropolitan population outside the city limits, the metropolitan area ranked just 30th in the U.S. with a population of 1,592,383. Subsequent population counts, however, indicate continued rapid growth in the area. As stated above, the 2010 U.S. Census showed the city's population at 1,327,407, making it the 2nd most populous city in Texas, as well as the 7th most populous city in the United States. The 2011 U.S. Census estimate for the 8-county San Antonio-New Braunfels metropolitan area placed its population at 2,194,927, making it the 3rd most populous metro area in Texas and the 24th most populous metro area in the U.S. The metropolitan area is bordered to the northeast by Austin, Round Rock, San Marcos, and the two metropolitan areas together combine to form a region of over 4.1 million people. About 405,474 households, and 280,993 families reside in San Antonio. The population density is 2,808.5 people per square mile. There are 433,122 housing units at an average density of 1,062.7 per square mile. The age of the city's population distributed as 28.5% under the age of 18, 10.8% from 18 to 24, 30.8% from 25 to 44, 19.4% from 45 to 64, and 10.4% who are 65 years of age or older. The median age is 32 years. In San Antonio, 48% of the population are males, and 52% of the population are females. For every 100 females, there are 93.5 males. For every 100 females age 18 and over, there are 89.7 males. The median income for a household in the city is $36,214, and the median income for a family is $53,100. Males have a median income of $30,061 versus $24,444 for females. The per capita income for the city is $17,487. About 17.3% of the population and 14.0% of families are below the poverty line. Of the total population, 24.3% of those under the age of 18 and 13.5% of those 65 and older are living below the poverty line. Source: